So hi everyone, and welcome to the most recent of our Hive Masterclass series. And we're just going to give it a couple of minutes for people to come in, and then we're going to make a start. Just whilst we're waiting, a little bit of housekeeping. So we've got got Dr. Alok Shukla here with us. It's fantastic. He's going to be sharing an overview of artificial intelligence, but for parents. So as you all know, Tutor Hive is an education tech company which is leveraging the power of AI to help find the right tutor for the student. And we thought it was only right that we share the knowledge of the dark arts with yourselves, and how you as parents can leverage, harness, utilize the power of what is a fantastic revolutionizing tool that's going to be a massive part of not only our futures, but our children's and our children's futures. So so very excited to have Dr. Alok joining us. And if you do have any questions, you should see the Q&A function at the bottom. So once you, if you have got any questions, please just ping those in. At the bottom, you'll see a Q&A function, and that should allow you to ask any questions in. And what we'll do is we'll pick those towards the end, and then we can run through the questions as well. So also this will be recorded, and so then you can share the recording around to your friends, family, and make sure that everyone receives the value. And some of the juicy stuff we're going to be sharing at the end about a really exciting opportunity for your children as well. So without further ado, thank you so much, Dr. Alok, for joining us, and the floor is yours. We're looking forward to learning a lot about what parents can do with AI.
Amazing. Well, listen, thanks so much, Rushab and Happy Naveed and the entire Tutor Hive team. I'm really excited to join you all. And yeah, I think we're all aware of how the world is shifting, but maybe we don't all understand quite how much it's shifting. And AI is one of the next platform shifts. It's going to be having profound implications across society and education. And this directly links to the future's choices and opportunities for children. Just to give some context, we gave a presentation at a school recently, and it was just a 1-hour presentation, just a small introduction to AI, but have a listen to what some of the kids had to say from just the introduction.
I think that all students should see this presentation. Yes, for sure, I fully agree. Because the things I learned from just a short 1-hour presentation is more I can learn in school in a week almost, I would say.
When they showed us an example of a website with artificial intelligence that makes websites. And what I thought of was this website that we've been trying to create for a CAST project. And it took us weeks, and they did it in a few minutes. So that was a very solid example of something that was important for me personally for my future.
So as you can see, children have the right ideas, but sometimes you can get stuck in the execution of those ideas. And with the right tools, you literally can have a completely different trajectory to your peers. And so that's the whole point of understanding how you can use AI. So my name's Alok, and a little bit about me. So I run a company called Implement AI alongside Piers Linney. And so we help companies literally implement AI. So we do training for executives and business owners. We're ranging from independent business owners to large companies with 500 to more employees. And we also do training for executives. So if anyone's interested in understanding more for their own business or different elements, we have materials available on LinkedIn for you to connect with me, and see on YouTube or our podcast as well. But let's start looking into AI, because what's changed? We've all heard about AI for a long period of time. Tesla was formed many years ago. We heard about AlphaGo, which was the first system which actually beat Lee Sedol, who was a world champion in the game of Go. And really that in 2017 was kind of the Sputnik moment. And why do I say that? Because that's the moment when really China realized the strategic importance of winning the AI race. And that's when they went all in to become a dominant player within AI. And that's when also the US, the UK, and many other companies, they also started investing more heavily in AI. Now, previous to essentially January 2023, most AI was all fragmented into different systems for computer vision and natural language processing and different systems like this. But since literally the ChatGPT moment from OpenAI, everything got consolidated into this thing called a large language model. And all you need to understand is that pre-January 2023, essentially, you can kind of ignore what was going on because there's been such a tectonic shift that it's so much easier, cheaper, and more scalable to kind of access AI. And even just today, Facebook announced a new large language model that are offering open source. So the power is becoming accessible to everybody. It's a little bit like we've all got electricity and we've all got Wi-Fi, and now we're going to have connected intelligence as well. So to give a bit of context about how fast the world is shifting, as humans, we find it very difficult to understand what an exponential is. An exponential is something which is doubling repeatedly, and we think in a linear way. So if we look at this graph here, this light blue line, which is almost vertical, this is showing how fast developers are adopting this program called Stable Diffusion. Now, Stable Diffusion is an open source model which enables you to literally create any visual, any image, any video. And this is also like part of the reason why there's a Hollywood actors strike at the moment, because there's a whole thing where Hollywood studios want to be able to film a background actor for one day and then use them digitally ongoing. So this is like being adopted at breakneck speed. This is not something that will happen in 3 months, 6 months. It's happening right now. And so it's very important to understand how that's going to impact everything. So we as kind of like humanity are at literally at a transition point where we were essentially the smartest, person on the planet, the smartest mind, the smartest thinking power, but that's no longer going to be the case. And essentially at this inflection point, there's going to be kind of like literally kind of like two groups, those that are able to understand and leverage this type of technology and those that aren't. And as you saw from that example at the very beginning, if one person is trying to make a website over a week and someone else can do it in a few minutes, what are the opportunities like for those two people? It will be different. So we're in what we call the AI assisted era. Up until now, we were a human first and assisted by machines. And now over the next 2 to 5 years, it's this AI assisted area. So that's going to be within education, within finance, within business, within society, within everything. And this is why it's so important to get on top of this and ahead of this technology so you can kind of leverage that for the best. Because if you think about it, if you're 7 years old now or 10 years old, you probably don't need to learn how to drive a car, and self-driving cars are going to become even more commonplace. So the thing is, the choices you're going to make and look at will be different. In the States, for example, they've got like imaging machines, like from the MRI systems, which are end-to-end digital. What that means is there's no human in the loop. So they're going through FDA clearance right now, where you would go through a scan, the scan will be automatically analyzed by AI, and your report will be generated instantly. And if you compare that to maybe waiting 6 weeks for a scan report or different things like this. Now, why do I mention that? Because right now they did a survey, there's a paper published where they were analyzing basically students' attitudes, pre-med students' attitudes to different specialties. And the number of people that were interested in radiology was less because they can see that that's being increasingly digitized and leveraged by AI. So it's very important to understand what is going to change, because if we make decisions now, things are going to start changing even more rapidly. And this gives you even more context. We thought that most people thought that AI would basically go for the low skill tasks first, but actually it's been very, very good in this kind of creative task first. So if we have a look here, we look at like law firms, consulting, technology, and we see like to the extent that the work is digital, knowledge work, repetitive, it's got a higher impact from AI, which means it's easier to do. We ran an AI for business workshop about a month ago in London at a large law practice. And we with one of the law partners that was talking with us, and she was explaining how she doesn't review large documents anymore. It's always ingested and summarized by AI. But then more importantly, she was actually saying that like for junior lawyers that are qualifying now, what are they going to do? Because there's not going to be as much opportunity to gain the experience in the low level work, because that's where these AI systems will be there. And they've been investing quite heavily in these systems. So it's very important to understand that like AI won't take the job, but someone who knows how to use AI will take the job. So the key thing is making sure you have the ability to upskill. And talking of jobs, look at like telecoms giant BT, for example. They've talked about shedding 55,000 jobs by the end of the decade, and up to a fifth of those in customer service. And I was at a conference in Manchester maybe about a month ago, and the head of AI for BT was actually there, and she was explaining how even now, at the level of AI is right now, they've already identified so many jobs that can be automated and basically not hired for. IBM has already done those sorts of things as well. So it's very interesting to understand that at the level that we're at now, which is the worst it will ever be, right now it's the worst it will ever be. These big companies are already making all these large announcements. So let's get a bit more into it. Large language models are these like systems like ChatGPT, and there are others, and they have different capabilities. You can ask them questions within a browser, a bit like this, but they've also got connections where it can connect into the internet. And this is where it's going to get quite interesting, because you could, for example, say, okay, please show me child-friendly restaurants in Manchester that have vegetarian options. And if there's a table available after 7 p.m, please book it for me. And what can happen is this system could connect into OpenTable. It can then also search different restaurant listings and viewings. And then it could also analyze the vegetarian options on the menu. And then based on that, it could tell you these 3 restaurants have these options. And you can say, yes, go ahead and book it. So the implications for how we're going to interact with technology, and also where there's going to be opportunities for new jobs, is going to change quite profoundly. So what I like to say is that right now, AI is like Nokia Snake. So if you remember the Nokia phone, like this one, this fantastic phone, you could literally drop it from the top of a large building and it wouldn't be destroyed. But right now, like if we compare this to an iPhone. Like, just think about it. Like on an iPhone, we have all the apps, the whole internet, we have augmented reality, we have anything possible. But if you compare that level of technology to this, and think about how long it took to switch between those two, it took a long time. Right now, the AI that we're talking about right now is at this level, and it's going to rapidly evolve. It's not going to take the same time to go from Nokia to iPhone. It's going to happen very, very quickly. So the key thing to understand is, like, right now, what is possible? So let's have a look at this. So this is an image of a drone inside a house. We all know what a drone looks like. We all know what a house looks like. There's nothing particularly remarkable about that. Or is there? Because there is no drone and there is no house. This is entirely computer generated. So this is right now with Nokia Snake level technology. So if you think about it, like in property, rather than selling a property off plan, where you just showed like a outline of a property of what it would look like, you could then show them a 3D walkthrough of what it would look like for them. And you could even customize it based on their preferences, needs, and details. So having the ability to understand what's possible, so imagining, what new capabilities could be done, but then also how to actually affect those, makes a big difference. So creating visuals is one thing, but there's further. We can have a system which can understand visually. So here we've got a person, and then we've got a video playing. And this is ChatGPT that's been connected to a computer vision software where it can actually analyze what's going on in the video. So here we can see, what's the panda doing? And the system is understanding the panda is eating bamboo, but it's unlikely to eat all the bamboo. Then here it can detect that there's a person in the video, that she's also on a roof and doing yoga. So these systems are quite smart. They have the ability to understand visually what's going on. So if you think about that from security cameras or from systems that someone might generate in a different business, you have the power to be able to understand and create new sentient systems. So here, for example, the elephant is drawing a picture, and the person's asking, what are they drawing? And it says it's a baby elephant. And saying, what do you think about the picture? It looks very beautiful and creative. And then how do you tell the elephant to stop painting? You can tell the elephant to stop painting by saying, stop painting, or distract the elephant. That's being creative. These systems have the ability to, be interrogated and ask questions. And that's already at this basic level. So we understand where systems might be within within a computer screen, but robotics is also coming in parallel as well. So here you've got ChatGPT, which has been connected into a spot robot, basically, which can walk around and you can communicate to it by voice. So over time, the keyboard is going to disappear because we're going to use voice and language as the new interface for everything. And as you can see here, being comfortable and understanding the applications and possibilities of this kind of technology is very important, because these types of technologies are going to become more and more prevalent in day-to-day life. And here you start to also get some emergent capabilities where you can ask the robot, what's your battery level? And it can like, shake its head saying that, it's a bit low or different things. And so the key thing to understand is that we're really rapidly entering kind of the future. I think for a long time, we've kind of had this promise of like how things would be. But right now, we've been in an exponential curve where we're almost like in a train traveling on the base of the exponential pyramid and of the track. And now we're literally in an elevator going straight up. So we're going to see the convergence of lots of technologies happening quite rapidly. So we're still at this basic, Nokia snake level, but we might think, okay, what's the last privacy? So our mind, for example, right? Well, actually have a look at this. What they've done is they took functional MRI scanners, and that basically measures blood flow within your brain. And then they connected that to a model of stable diffusion, the one I talked about before, which can generate any image. And what that's done is it's literally just analyzing the blood flow in the brain while the person's looking at these images, and then it's regenerating what it thinks those images would be. So imagine you're walking through security in an airport, and you imagine, like, for example, you got scanned. I mean, they would be able to have an idea of like what you were thinking. So I think the key thing to understand here is that like the power already at this Nokia snake level, in July 2023 is very profound. And huge companies all around the world are investing very heavily in this. Won't play too much of this, but basically you've also already got like more and more places. If we go to any restaurant in London, we tend to see these kind of kiosks where you can kind of like order by pressing buttons and things like this. And they've already got different McDonald's, which are, fully automated without any people involved there. So we can see that like we need to be able to add skill. We need to have knowledge. But then the question is, what type of knowledge? Like McDonald's is one thing, but what about more significant things? So I was talking with a relative actually, and they were asking about their child about studying medicine. And I said, okay, that's a good thing to do, but the medical knowledge isn't necessarily going to be the valuable bit by itself. You need to have that plus something else, because let's look at this. This is a system that we built for a medical application. And imagine the context where you've got a doctor, and then they're in front of a patient, and they have this screen in front of them. So this is going to show a transcription of the conversation, and this is going to suggest questions for the doctor to ask based on what the patient says. Now you can apply this to any kind of consulting or anything. So let's just have a look at this basically. So how can AI actually help us is a co-pilot in a consultation. Now, this consultation could be, it could be an insurance consultation, it could be a finance consultation, and it could also be any kind of like consultation where the expert needs to understand more about the customer or the patient, and then the expert needs to ask guiding questions based on what the patient or the customer says. So let's have a look at a medical example so we can see how it might work in a more complex way. So what we're going to do here is we're going to clear it, and let's start recording. So thanks for coming to see me today. I understand you've had a problem. Yes, that's right, doctor. I've been getting really bad pain when I walk. Okay, I'm sorry to hear that. Can you describe the location of the pain? Yes. Basically, when I walk on my calf muscle, there's like a stabbing pain, and I can't put my heel down fully. Can you describe the intensity of the pain on a scale of 1 to 10? It's like a 7. Have you experienced any numbness or tingling in your foot or toes? Thankfully not. I've not had anything like that. I'm going to pause it here. So you can see that like based on the answers which are coming, different questions are being prompted. And you can see that like it then gives you a probability ratio of like what the possible cause is in that area. So if you think about the difference between like a basic level doctor and a very experienced consultant, it's the number of scenarios they've seen. It's the amount of context and the fine details of questions they can ask. But these systems can be trained on huge amounts of information. And so they can also know more than any human could know. So the question of what is the valuable skill, it's rapport, it's communication skills, it's being able to use technology. These are the valuable skills. You do need to understand everything as well. But the thing is, as you can see, like the difference between a basic doctor and a very expert level doctor can be, rapidly changed. And if you have a look here, for example, you can also generate the consultation notes afterwards. So we're building systems like this in finance and in legal and in consulting, even like, for example, like where it comes down to like wills and different elements like this. So the key thing to understand is that like this technology is already here and it can add a huge amount of opportunity. So being able to understand all these things is a major skill. Companies are looking for people that understand not just how the technology works, but also can think, how could you apply the technology? So let's have a look at another example. So in this system, let's just imagine that someone wanted to design a house. So in this system, you've got this person who's talking with this computer system. And then it says like, okay, let's draw a cat in a bottle. There I can draw it. And what gets quite interesting is like when you look into architecture, okay, so let's design a house. So what's an architect? Someone that understands the rules of like, the interior space, the material science. Well, here it's asking, do you want interior, exterior space? Exterior. What material do you want to use? There's different physics properties for those. So for example, NVIDIA, we're an NVIDIA partner, and they provide LLM models which already have all the physics attributes built into it. So you can build on all those systems to actually create your own architecture systems or different things like this. And here it's asking, what season you want to have. So I think the key thing to understand here is that like, you're in a very profound shift. So if we think about other things, like, okay, so it can help us with consultations. AI can help us design things. What about programming? We still need to learn how to program, right? Well, let's look at this. We talked about Snake at the beginning, right? So there's a program called GPT Engineer where it can actually create a program for you based on you describing what you want. So here it's describing you want to have Snake in the browser and, what are all the components required? And then what happens is it then creates it for you. So, it asks you the rules of like, what's the game, all the different elements of this. So being able to describe things is the most important thing. So there's a phrase where basically, what's the best new programming language? Well, it's English or French or Hindi or any language you speak, basically, because before we had to learn the language of computers, now computers know our language. So it's just a question of telling them what we want them to do. So here you can see it actually like goes through and creates the whole program. And then if we have a look at what it looks like, not bad. That's just basically from telling it that you want to create the program state. So I think the key thing to understand here is whatever was a certain way is not. This is a fundamental regime change. All the new technologies are now going to have advantages that old technologies cannot. And we're going to have like basically the biggest productivity rise in history. Steam power was 25% productivity rise, electricity 35%. This is 50% or more. They have studies where they basically have shown, programming tasks which would only take 2 hours are possible in 1 hour or less. So let's look at a real life test. Imagine we wanted to launch a gardening business and we want to have like a gardening business website. We want to have packages and revenue model, a services contract presentation for iPad and 90-day action table. So normally for anyone, this would take a long period of time. But if we actually think about how to use technology, we could do these things very, very quickly. So we did a survey with some schools and some kids said, oh, this will take like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or, a month even. But let's have a look at this, because if you have the ability to do this quickly, then you can go straight into your learning phase of, interacting with places, launching your business, learning from that, rather than being stuck in all of the kind of like doing the kind of technical tasks. So let's have a look at what this might look like. So let's look at like making a website. So, okay, so let's say you want to do a gardening business, right? Okay. There we go. And we call this, let's say, Magic Gardeners. So then the system is able to like already just start helping you create the basic levels of it. So the point of having the ability to go to, like, let's say prototype level very, very quickly means that you have different advantages. So while this is waiting, what we can do is we can look at creating a presentation. So here we might, for example, create a presentation for, the same Magic Gardeners. And again, it's created everything quite nicely. Just from saying you want a gardening business, it creates different packages for you. So it helps you with creativity. It has different elements of like that the customer might want to know. So you can show it on an iPad. It even creates the different pricing options for you. And then you can see kind of different elements which are there. So let's go back to the website. So the website's already ready. So now we can see, okay, transform your garden today. And so it's got like a different section. You can regenerate it. You can customize it. Tells you a little bit about Magic Gardeners. I'm based in Madrid at the moment. So you can see it's even picked that part up in their system. Here you can see like different elements of the services, and even it's got a little testimonial within there. So the thing you can see here is that like being able to go straight to implementation gives you a profound advantage, because you can go straight and interact in the real world and, build your business, gain experience, present what you want in that kind of way. And when you're using language models such as ChatGPT, if you create a gardening contract, which is 3 packages for 25, 50, and 150 a month, it then creates an agreement, which then has the different packages. And it also generates what is in package A, 25 a month, basic lawn mowing and trimming up to 500 square meters, package B, all the services in package A. So you can kind of see very quickly that what you thought might take a long period of time actually does not. And, using different tools, it's able to go very quickly. So with that school that we did the presentation for, they were spending more than a week on, let's just say, one of these tasks. So your rate of learning and your ability to kind of go even faster can be much accelerated. So the key thing here to understand is that like having the skill of AI accelerates your learning. And it means that you can present and create higher quality coursework because you augment your natural intelligence and your creativity with the technology. You're not having to take your ideas and have them diluted by your lack of skill or execution. You now can have your ideas augmented by these new technologies. So just as a little bit of an overview, if we think about like how to think about AI, you basically want to think in 3 levels. You think about language, vision, and code. So in language, for example, it's where it's reading, writing, and understanding. That's where you can have AI systems which can understand any text, any audio, and also any information within any kind of enclosed file. And that can mean you can impact and communicate with the system, but then also with humans, because if you can create a presentation which can influence a human, then that means that you can be more communicative and more effective. Same thing with vision, creating computer vision systems which are powered by AI is very possible now. So before, like in 2019, I worked on systems for diagnostic applications of computer vision. It was very expensive and very slow. Now you've got systems where you can literally draw what you want to kind of detect on a Petri dish, and it will search for that in other areas. So again, knowing what's possible and having the skills to create those things is what's very important. So same thing for code, being able to understand how to create different programs using, your natural language and creativity can unlock new opportunities. So the key thing here to understand is that going from text, you can now go multimodal. So you can create text to text, text to image, text to video, text to 3D. You can even go from a 3D file. So for example, you can take a YouTube 3D file of, let's say, a Star Wars lightsaber, for example, right? And see a video of that. There's programs where you can actually extract the 3D STL file from that video, and then you could even then print that out. So imagine, for example, you wanted to create a business or a hobby, or you wanted to, do anything. What I'm trying to explain to here is like, if you didn't have those tools, you would not be able to do that. But with these tools, you can literally create anything you want to in a very powerful way. So as a little bit of an overview, we all know about ChatGPT, but there's other programs as well, other language models, such as, Bard, and then there's also like Poe. So Poe, for example, I'll show you an example here. This one, let's go to this one here. Yeah, so this program here, Poe, it helps you interact with many different language models. So just like you might ask different people for a different perspective, you can ask different language models different perspectives. And some of them, for example, like Claude, it has a memory of 100,000 tokens, which is 75,000 words, or nearly a 300-page book. So for example, what I did was I was working on a course for executives. And so I just loaded in, let me see if I can find it. Yeah, I just loaded in basically our whole course, nearly 4 hours of lecture points from there. And then what I asked it to create is like a summary of the key points from within there. And you get the different elements in much more detail, which is the own elements that we taught. So the key thing to understand is having the ability to access different tools and different platforms, which can do things that, let's say, ChatGPT cannot, gives you even more advantages in those ways. And the other thing in terms of like creating visuals, there's programs called Midjourney and DALL-E where you can create any visual. And like, for example, what that means is that you can literally do any kind of image or any kind of visual whatsoever. I saw an application yesterday where basically what they were able to do is they were taking a video of, it was actually Mark Zuckerberg, and he was speaking fluent Hindi, because what happened is they'd actually run that video. So you just put the YouTube video in, it will then train an AI system on his voice, in his voice. It will then transcribe that whole system using basically like Whisper, like an AI transcription service, and then it translates it, and then it encodes it back with a visual creator. So it matches his lips back on the video. So basically you see him talking his voice and his accent, but in Hindi, and his lips are matching. So you think about the implications of that, being able to talk in any language, create training elements and different elements, it's very powerful. So the key thing here is like understanding these different technologies like, GPT, Poe, and let's look at summarized text. So imagine, for example, we want to learn. So let's see here. Let's say there's a lecture. So what's this lecture on? So this lecture is on modern physics. Okay, so this is a 1 hour 51 lecture. So how am I going to understand what's in this lecture? Well, let's look at a tool, for example, summarize.tech. So within this, what it does, it actually summarizes the entire video. So you can actually then see all of the insights from within here, and you can expand on it in more detail. You can also pass this into a different language model, for example, such as the ChatGPT, and say, tell me the key insights, the key learning points. So what this means is you can have a higher resolution of thinking, because rather than spending 1 hour and 51 on one video, you could actually get 4 or 5 different videos, such as from Richard Feynman and modern physics from Stanford, maybe from MIT, maybe in different areas, maybe even Khan Academy. And then what you can then do is you condense all those different elements together, and you could then also analyze that in a different detail. So here, this is something called a knowledge graph. So if you have the ability to generate this, and this is generated from one of the courses that we gave, you can actually then identify what are the key patterns and the key themes from within the text. And then, for example, let's say you were digging deeper into one theme of physics within there, you can kind of zoom into more detail and understand, okay, what are the key points? What are the key learning point elements from within there? So I think the key thing to understand is like having access to these kind of technologies to summarize and compress large elements of information from video, from scientific papers. Like you can load in a scientific paper and say, explain to me as if I'm 5 years old, and it will do that. You're going to have a learning advantage over anyone else around you, because you can gain more information in a more structured way than other people can. Gamma was the tool that I showed you, which can create any kind of presentation. Runway, let's look at this one. So this is a tool for, let's say, creating any kind of visual. So with Runway, what you're able to do is you're able to create text to video. So let's just see, for example, here, okay? So let's create a man running in a field in winter. So, imagine you want to create something. So let's just see how this will generate it. So it'll take a little bit of time to generate. So we let this run in the background, but you've got text to video. So here it is, okay? So let's make this one, generate this one. So now it gave me 4 options of a man running, in a field in winter. And then I chose this option, which is going to render for me. So imagine you want to create your own film. Imagine you want to create your own, story. Imagine you want to create your own presentation, which is engaging for people. And you want to have a particular visual of Marrakesh, or you want to imagine, let's just say, okay, in Roman times, I want to imagine, what a Roman centurion might look like, when he's going into battle. You could create all these different elements literally instantaneously, and having the ability to create a more engaging presentation than someone else who just used some stock image, becomes interesting. We'll come back to this one, but I think you can kind of see that having the ability to kind of create different tools and create different visuals makes it very interesting. Midjourney enables you to create any visual, and prompt engineering is the skill where you can interact with different language models to be able to do things in the way that you want to do things. So we talk about creating images, but let's go one step further. So is this one here? Okay, yeah, okay, this is ready already. So here we go. A man running in a field in winter. I mean, this is not bad. This is Nokia Snake level, basically, right? You know, so just, and you can expand on this further. You can also do things where you could record yourself, and then you can swap yourself out with a different video or a different background. You can then also train different images in different ways. You can then also, you know, create images in 3D. There's so many different possibilities that you can do. And if we look at like some of these other features, so if we're looking at, you know, AI training, it's very creative, even with audio and visual examples you can do. Here's another tool where this enables you to literally take any website. So let's say like the Apple website, and you can turn that into something you can edit yourself directly. So here, imagine you said, okay, I'm setting up a new business and I like the look and feel of Apple. Well, you can customize your own website literally just directly by dragging, dropping, and changing things. And you've got different magic tools where you can literally even just do a wireframe mode, or you could even, you know, have a wireframe scanner where you can turn a sketch like this into a website. So again, just think that the power of knowing about these tools and having the ability to use these tools you have over someone else who doesn't. It's literally an unfair advantage. So the key thing here is like AI is very powerful. AI already is shifting everything. And the key thing here is that like your children really need to start engaging with this now so they can gain the skills and confidence, because unfortunately in schools, which are going to be rapidly shifted, they won't have the bandwidth necessarily to cover these new skills. And that's where, you know, places like Tutor Hive, where you can get supplemental education in different areas, or, you know, facilities like our AI Summer School helps unlock more opportunities. So just to explain a little bit more, our whole system here is based on projects, and it's a 5-week program. It's a one day a week. We have on a Thursday, we have either the creative track or the entrepreneur track. And the whole point here is that you gain real skills. So we've got like a storyteller lab where they would actually learn to create their own Kindle book and create their own audiobook in different languages, also understand how to create any kind of digital movie or video creation, podcast and YouTube. And that's on the creative track for future visionaries, authors, and storytellers. And then we've also got an entrepreneur track where you maybe for future, you know, impact innovators or inventors or game changers. So that's where they learn the fundamentals of creating their own business using AI, how to understand, create and do e-commerce, product design, and launch their own business very quickly. Same time also like web design, product design, and also understanding AI and automation. So all these skills mean that like at the end of the course, you can see like this, they start to gain real knowledge. And the whole point of this is that they then are able to take this skill and they are perfectly, you know, perfectly primed to deliver much higher quality coursework, much higher quality projects, even anything they want to do in their own career or future, they have the ability to do those sorts of things. And as I say, this also means that like if they want to have their own career in these different areas, they're an advantage. So the whole point for us really is like enabling people to like think, design, and implement an AI first world. And our AI Summer School is part of our continuum, where we basically sort of imagine the skills required to thrive in an AI first world, where it comes from imagination, mindset, focus, thinking, creativity, and then the skills of being able to literally create anything from text, visuals, audio, 3D objects, code and presentations, automation, even influence presentation. You know, these are the skills that we consider to be very important. And these are the skills that we are actually training companies on how their employees can become AI assisted. So our goal really is for children to be able to gain different skills, different confidence, and unlock different possibilities for their own life, really. And so, yeah, you know, thank you very much for your attention. And yeah, if we want to kind of go through some questions, I'd be very happy to do so.
Thank you so much, Alok. Yeah, fascinating. There's so many, and it's in its infancy, right? The Nokia Brick had what, polyphonic ringtones and Snake, and then like maybe 2 other games. So it's only the beginning. It's very, very exciting. It's so powerful already. One question that has come through just about the academy, and that's what age is it for appropriate for? So I know we had this conversation, but yeah, could you share what age is?
Yes, it's for 7 to 17 years old, basically, right? So the whole point is that it's designed so that people can engage from a young age, and they can, you know, do the different exercise and gain those confidence about the possibilities of what can be done. And then at the same time, for the older ones, like you saw at the very beginning, when I had those kids that were explaining in 1 hour, they learned more than, they might have learned in a week of school. They can go even deeper, basically, right? So we've got like, live expert-led session, and then we've also got like a forum where they can get support for projects and different things. And we really just see this as like the sparking point of like, unlocking this whole new, area of skills, basically, and that's how that works.
So another interesting, yes, just to confirm, the sessions are then online, right?
That's
so these are online. Are they recorded?
Yes, exactly. So they're basically live every Thursday, and they will be recorded as well. So if someone can't attend it in person, you can absolutely access the recording. They have access to the recording for the lifetime afterwards as well. And then, as I say, that within the forum, they can also submit parts of their project and get support and guidance from there. So within any of the sessions, they can ask questions as well and kind of go from there. But our whole point is designed to make it as accessible and scalable for more people.
Right. Perfect. And just to be sure, with like the recordings of the sessions, this session is also recorded as well, because I appreciate we went through lots of tools very quickly, and I think a lot of parents might also benefit from joining or sitting on another laptop whilst you're doing these sessions, because again, AI is here. It's a big part of every business, and a lot of companies are shying away from it in the same way as the education system. So the narrative is all about ChatGPT can be used to cheat on your homework, and it shouldn't be allowed in schools. And it's negative. It's like, hang on.
No, I agree with you. And I think the key thing you have to understand is like, in the very near future, all that's going to matter is the standard of work. And it's not going to really matter whether you used AI or you didn't use AI, but you'll be judged by the best quality work that's possible. So if the best quality work that's possible is human plus AI, and you're not using AI, you're at a profound disadvantage. And if you think about like the academic area, so for example, even scientific papers, you can publish a scientific paper and you can use, a large language model and AI to help you do that. But you have to just explain you have to show your method and the system you use and the prompt. So the key thing to understand is, in a previous session I did for parents, someone was asking, what can they do to prevent their child from, let's call it, cheating on their homework or different things like this. And I said, like, really, that's the kind of wrong mindset to kind of think about. But what you have to understand is that they have to put effort into it as well. So the thing is, they should be encouraged to use AI, but they should show their method. How did you prompt the system? How did you set it up? How did you add it with your own knowledge, and where did you put things into? Because it's not about do my work for me. It's about how can I create a higher standard of work than I could have done solo. So that's the key thing to understand. Like, for example, when we work with companies that are trying to do their own blogs or articles, we talk about using the AI to help create an outline. Then we get them to dictate their own content, and then the AI can remix and rewrite those things together, basically.
Yeah. I suppose it's interesting. It's almost, it's more exciting, and if not, definitely on par with the introduction of the internet, right? When you could start to ask Jeeves for, hey, what's this paper, and and Wikipedia. So it's not like we haven't gone through a revolution where we've gone from books to the internet and internet search. It's just the next incarnation of that. So I don't think it's
profound. It's profound. And I think the key thing is, like, the faster you get on board with it and engage with it, as these tools evolve, your competency and your imagination will evolve as well. And I think that's why it's so important to really just, embrace it, because everything meaningful is going to come this way, basically.
So have you got any tips on how a busy parent can start to use AI in the house, like at home? So obviously we're coming up to summer, and kids are active and they like to just, run around, do stuff. And have you got any tips as to how parents can help with just creating activities, or I don't know, like, how can a parent use some of these incredible tools?
100%. So like a parent could use, like that language model of GPT, or even like, Claude, and could say, like, help me plan a engaging, interactive, a schedule for my children, which will have minimal screen time, or will include these things, or be possible in the evening. And it can help you with a lot of creativity. I think the key thing to understand here really is that, like, these can really just help you think more, and they can help you like learn anything. And you can also set it up so you can just talk to it, so you don't have to like type things. You know, the key thing is that like you can just have it set up to support you however you want to. And it's really only limited by your creativity. The main skill I would say is creativity, really. I think the key thing is you really need to understand what is possible and see examples with your own eyes of like the speed that it's possible at. And then once you've got the confidence that there's an AI tool for that, then it's the question of your creativity and what can you bring to it. So I'd really say for parents, what you want to do is like engage their creativity, engage different projects, help them do stuff, and get them really like doing as many different things as possible. Because they want to be creators, not consumers. And that's really kind of the way I would kind of put it.
So a good example is one of our tutors I was speaking to is an English tutor and was trying to set some homework, but one of the kids was into Shrek and Spider-Man. And they were like, okay, I need to create a comprehension that's Key Stage 3 standard. But the article, the story is just a fusion of Shrek and Spider-Man. And it came out with an appropriate length story, and then the Key Stage 2 standard questions. And it was crazy. And they were like, yeah, we just gave the kid that as their homework, and they couldn't stop to the point where you've got Donkey flying with the dragon. It's like, it's just crazy. But again, it's the creativity that, you know, you don't have the time to do, but it enables you to unlock the interest areas to motivate children. And this is exactly where Tutor Hub are going in terms of how we're starting to use the AI side to make the learning journey both bespoke but personal, because, you know, it's got to be, it's bespoke, personal, but also automated in a slick way. We've got an interesting question from Raj. So Raj basically says, this is game changing. Our economics cannot handle this in a digital timeframes. And is there really any future for the world as it stands? So how, I suppose, is this an entire rip up of what we know now and start again? Or are there any remnants of what we're currently doing today?
I mean, the way all I can talk about is like what I'm kind of seeing, right? Like, so with the companies that we're working with, for example, we've seen that like they're rapidly investing in this technology so that they can essentially like, you know, automate more things and augment the existing team that they've got. So what I would say is that like anyone who has this insight and knowledge and skill, and from this kind of course, you're going to literally have your own portfolio of things that you've proven you've already done. They're going to be at an advantage. The people who are expecting to kind of turn up to work and it to be like it was before, and someone's going to show me everything, and I'm going to have, you know, a year to kind of get the basics, and then I'm going to go into this. It's not going to be like that, you know. Like, and I think we're in a very kind of evolving time. Like many university degrees, honestly, I look at it and I think you have to really reconsider, you know, what are you learning and what are you trying to do, and you have to think about quantifiable skills and insights and creativity and fundamental knowledge, you know, understanding physics, understanding chemistry, understanding biology. These things in detail are important. So you have foundational sciences and mathematics, but then beyond that, you then got to understand how to do things with technology, really, and how to communicate with people, how to influence, you know, these are the skills which are going to become valuable, really. So we are in a rapid change, but in a rapid change, the opportunity is to embrace the change. Don't, you know, like, don't wait for things to go back, because they ain't going back.
Yeah, I suppose that the genie's out of the bottle, right? it's not going to go back. What's your advice for parents who are, you know, it's not, again, you've got this cold wall in front of you, you see AI, it's, how do you start? Is there like a good entry point for a parent who may not be digitally savvy, just, you know, just to, I mean, I've had this conversation with plenty of parents. Say, look, just try it. And no, I don't know how to do it. And there's almost this fear, like a technophobia.
I understand.
Have you got any advice for that?
I think the key thing is use it yourself. You know, like I just showed a few examples, you know, like for example, the summarize.tech, or for example, another one which might be like, you know, creating, you know, a presentation for something, even in your own work, potentially. Also, you know, understanding how to plan your own life better. You know, like, okay, I need to organize this. How can I do that? The nice thing about AI is it can teach you how to use itself, because you can ask it, tell me what I should ask you in order to do this, for example, right? And then it will then do that. So for example, if you were doing like an article on your business, you can say, please ask me 10 questions. So then you can help me write an article about my business, and it will ask you 10 questions basically, right? And then So I think the key thing is like these are very simple tools now, and you just kind of got to get used to it a bit, like we got used to like the iPhone, a bit used to apps and things like this. But the key thing to really understand is that like this is just part of the world now, and the sooner you kind of embrace it, you're going to really have the chance to kind of get it at a, you know, at least a 6-month advantage over other people that are not using this or even thinking about it.
Yeah. So bringing it back to Mia, how if a parent's interested, we've definitely got a couple who will be. I know a few for sure. How would they go about signing up?
Sure. So if you go to miacloudacademy.com, so that's the website there, and you can then see the schedule, and you can also then, you know, just sign up directly. There's an area where you can actually like select, you know, which track your child is interested in, and then you can, if you've got a question, you can also ask us the question there, and then you can just reserve your child's place. Really, I think the key thing here is we're just trying to make it as simple as possible, and really, you know, even if they can't make all the sessions live, there will be the opportunity to, you know, get help and support. Our goal really is to like make any child that goes through the program as confident and competent as they possibly can be, so that they've got more energy and more enthusiasm about what's possible for them.
Yeah. And how much is it? Obviously,
so it's £550. That's the investment for that one. It's like the full 5-week program and the support and everything like that.
But then if you do it for Tutor, we're going to knock 50 quid off. So
yes, exactly.
So 500 quid through Tutor. Give us a shout if anyone's interested in getting that. But we'll send all the information about signing up and stuff after the webinar. So if there's anyone else who's got any questions, there's another one that's come through. So Raj, another existential question. I'm liking these, Raj. These are great. So this clearly redefines the human world as them and us. Should other forms of life care?
AI is not sentient. Like it's just a tool, right? Like so I think the key thing is like it will do what you tell it to do, but it has no intent by itself. So, you know, it's still humans and animals, and caring for all life on the planet and making the planet sustainable is important.
I think it's with any technological advancement. Yes, the things will change. People will change their role with anything, but the importance is there's a huge amount of opportunity created as we then have the ability to focus on some of the real challenges that we have in our hands. What it does is it allows you to remove some of the mundane tasks. Doesn't mean we're losing jobs. It just means they're changing and they're advancing and they're pivoting. And that's almost why you want to be ahead of the wave and get your kids ahead of the wave, as opposed to be in the position where you're scrambling. And that's exactly, again, it's sort of about being proactive, embracing the change. It's a really good book called Who Moved My Cheese? It's if anyone is again, we can share a link to that after, but it's just a little book about embracing change and learning to accept that things do change, and you shouldn't just be stuck in your own set ways, and it does a really good job. Very short, it's a very tiny book, teeny tiny.
Great book.
But a really good book. Yeah, exactly. Have we got any other questions from the audience, or Dr. Alak, you got any questions that parents often ask you?
I think it's just the question about like how they could encourage their children to use AI, you know, properly. And I was talking about like, you know, method. And I think the key thing to reward here is creativity and effort. Like, I think that's always going to be important. And so you want to, the purpose of this is so that parents can understand what the system can do, and it's not necessarily the child trying to pass off as just they did everything themselves. But I think the key thing to understand is like, you saw the website, it's a basic website, it's not a beautiful website, but, you know, so you can put more effort and energy into these things to make these things even better, but it's already giving you, it's a bit like walking, you know, like if you're at the airport, walking by yourself or on the travelator, you know, you can go much faster and much easier, basically, you know. So I think the key thing to understand is like reward creativity from your child and reward effort. And the more they understand these systems, the more they play with the systems, the more they increase their confidence, and, you know, just the better possibilities they'll have, because they'll have agency and the self-confidence to think that they can get things done in the world.
Yeah. What about safety and security? So obviously there's the biases that might be inherently in there from the data it's been trained on, and you might get answers that are inappropriate. how can a parent navigate the fear of the unknown?
So that's a great question. It's no different really than YouTube or Google or anything like this. You know, if someone really, really wanted to, they could kind of like access more information they shouldn't get hold of through Google, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
Systems like Claude and ChatGPT are very, very well trained, and so that they don't answer inappropriate or even controversial things. And so, you know, I think the key thing to understand is that like it's, you know, this is just now part of the world, really. And these systems are already trained to be safe. And answering your question about bias and things like this, there are potentially some biases within there, but you can actually train these systems to be customized to you. So for example, Stable Diffusion, they're making a version for India, they're making a version for, you know, different countries, you know, in African nations. So you can all have your own language model tuned to your country, your company, you know, and there's different elements. So I think the key thing to understand is that like, you have to play a role of co-creator. It's not going to do everything out of the box for you. And so that's why the key thing is to understand these things so you can shape them to, you know, help co-create the world you want.
Right, fantastic. And that's it's a great message around we are shaping the world. So we should use all the tools to our hand. So again, thank you so much for the time and sharing this again. To those who've joined and those who are watching this back, please do reach out if you've got any questions or anything of interest. We can definitely share those queries back to Alok and team. And for us, we're really happy to be able to put these types of sessions and masterclasses on to help parents. And we're probably going to be doing a whole series of these more in the space. And yeah, just we're keen to share and help you be as effective as possible through TutorHive and the platform, but also make sure your kids are in the best possible position for the future world, and that includes AI. So thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing you at the next masterclass. Thank you, Dr. Alok, and
Thank you very much, Rishabh.
cheers. All right, thank you all. Take care. Bye.
Bye.